Martinez sat in the command center and watched her world burn. She could see the sky turning red and orange as the ships unleashed their weapons on the colony below. 442b had been her home for 3 years. It was supposed to be humanity's fresh start, a place where people could grow and build something new far from Earth's problems. Now it was dying. The colony sat on a high plateau surrounded by mountains that looked like sleeping giants. The agricultural domes stretched across the eastern section, rows of green life that fed 5,000 people. The medical center where daughter Maya had been born stood in the center of the settlement like a monument to hope. Schools, homes, water purification plants, all of it was being erased in a single morning. Was 42 years old. She had sharp eyes and gray streaking through her black hair. She kept her shoulders straight even when the ground shook from explosions miles away. She had been trained to lead, and leaders did not fall apart when things went wrong. Leaders held the line. "Captain, the agricultural dome, too, is completely destroyed," Lieutenant Park reported from his station. His voice was steady, but his hands shook as he typed the information. He was young, maybe 25, and this was his first real crisis. Did not look away from the screen. How many people were working in that dome? 87. We think most of them evacuated to the underground bunkers. We have not received confirmation from everyone. 87 people. Added them to the list in her head. 214 dead so far, maybe 300 by the time this was over. The ships hung above the colony like vultures. There were 12 of them, each one the size of a small mountain. Had seen pictures of human warships in Earth's archives. They looked like toys compared to these things. The smallest vessel was twice the size of the colony's entire defense grid. A voice came through the communication system. It was harsh and hissing like wind through broken glass. "Commander Axe of the Dominion. Humans of this colony, you have 1 hour to surrender all advanced technology and lay down your weapons. Failure to comply will result in total destruction. You will give us everything. Your ships, your computers, your research. In return, we will allow your survivors to leave this world." The connection cut out. Knew what that meant. They were lying. They did not want the technology. They wanted the humans gone. The believed humanity was too unpredictable, too dangerous, too willing to fight when cornered. The Galactic Council had made humans sign agreements not to develop weapons. They did not care about agreements. "How long until the bunkers are at capacity?" asked. Checked his readouts. "The east bunker can hold 3,000. The west bunker can hold 2,000. We might get 4,700 people underground if we push. That leaves about 500 on the surface or in buildings." His hands became fists. She released them and tried again. "Start moving people. Get everyone you can into the bunkers and activate the emergency protocol." His face went pale. "The emergency protocol? Captain, that protocol was made 50 years ago. Nobody even knows if it still works." "It works," said. "I checked the systems myself 6 months ago. Nobody asked because nobody expected we would need it." The emergency protocol was a ghost story told in military academies. It was a quantum-encrypted message, stored in the station's deepest archive, waiting for a moment when conventional help would not arrive in time. The message contained coordinates. The message contained activation codes. The message contained information about something that was supposed to have been destroyed 2 decades ago. Had read the protocol once and never spoken of it. Command had buried the information deep in the old archives, hoping the day would never come when it needed to be used. That day was now. "Do it," said. "Send the signal, all of it." His fingers moved across the console. He was activating protocols that had not been used since before he was born. The quantum-encrypted message lifted from the station and shot into space like a prayer thrown at God. The message carried one word repeated again and again: "Valiant, valiant, valiant." Another explosion rocked the station. This one was closer. His coffee cup fell from the table and broke on the floor. The lights flickered, grabbed his station to keep from falling. "Medical center is gone," another officer said, her voice flat and hollow. "The whole building is collapsed. We are receiving distress signals from the communications tower section. We are losing sections of the northern residential district." Thought of Maya, her 7-year-old daughter, who was safe in the west bunker with 300 other children. She thought of Maya's teacher, who had died in that medical center. She thought of the thousands of things that made this colony alive. "Maintain all evacuation operations," ordered. Get people to the bunkers. Set all automated systems to defensive posture. If we cannot stop them, we make them work for every meter of this colony. The next 30 minutes were controlled chaos. The ships moved lower in the sky, their weapons cutting through buildings like they were made of paper. The colony's defense grid fired back, small weapons compared to what hung above them, but they fired anyway. One ship took multiple hits. Its shields flickered. Then it fired back, and the entire defense installation vanished. Watched it all with a feeling of helplessness she had never known before. She was the commander. She was supposed to protect these people. She had signed up for this because she believed in humanity's future among the stars, but promises from Earth meant nothing out here. The nearest Terran fleet was 17 days away. The Galactic Council had sent their sympathy, but not their ships. The humans on 442B were alone. "Captain," said quietly, "the signal has been sent. If the Valiant even exists, if anyone receives it, if they can respond in time." "It will be enough," said. She did not know if this was true. She had sent a message into the darkness hopping for a ghost. But she had to hope. If she did not hope, she had to accept that her colony was going to die today. The colony shook again. The lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in red emergency light. The showed fires burning across the settlement. Could see the west bunker entrance from here. Could see people still running toward it, racing against the clock, racing against the weapons that fell from the sky like judgment. She activated the general broadcast. "To all personnel and colonists, this is Captain Martinez. We are holding, we are surviving, help is coming. I do not know how, I do not know when, but help is coming. We endure, we survive, we do not break. Get to the bunkers, now." USS Valiant hung in the void like a graveyard floating through space. She was a massive warship, 400 meters long, with a hull that looked like it had been carved from a meteor. The plating was dark and ancient, covered in the scars of battles fought decades ago. Her running lights were dead. Her sensors were silent. She was a tomb moving through the darkness, and she had been alone in this pocket of twisted space-time for 23 years. Inside the ship, in the chamber deep below the main deck, 8 people slept the sleep that was not quite death and not quite life. They had been frozen when the world was different. They had been frozen when Earth's government still believed humanity might fight back against the... They had been frozen when weapons like the Valiant were still being built. The quantum beacon cut through the dimensional pocket like a key finding a lock. Alarms screamed to life. Status lights blazed across the ship systems. Power surged through circuits that had not carried electricity in 2 decades. The pods began their warm-up sequence, and in the first pod, the man named Jacob Pierce took his first breath of recycled air and gasped like he was drowning. Pierce was 58 years old, but his face looked older. The process was not gentle on the human body. His hair was completely white. His skin was pale and loose. His eyes opened to darkness and the terrible knowledge that something had woken him up, something bad. Alarms, the ship was under attack. His mind jumped to that conclusion even as his body was still struggling to work. He tried to move. His arms would not obey him. His legs were heavy as concrete. He forced himself to focus. The alarms were not attack alarms. They were activation alarms. The ship was waking up. A woman's voice, synthetic and calm, spoke from the speaker above his pod. "Welcome back, Admiral Pierce. You have been in sleep for 23 years, 4 months, and 16 days. A priority emergency signal was received 7 minutes ago. The ship is preparing for immediate deployment." 23 years. Pierce worked the math in his head. He had gone into in 2127. The world he came from was almost a quarter-century dead. Everything had changed. Everyone he had known had either aged a quarter-century or was dust. The pod opened. Pierce sat up slowly and fell onto his hands and knees on the cold metal floor. His muscles screamed. His bones felt like they were made of rust. He forced himself to stand, holding onto the pod for support. "Status report," he said, and his voice came out as a whisper. "One emergency distress signal received from the human colony at 442B. The signal contains request for immediate military intervention. Dominion forces have attacked the colony. Estimated enemy strength, 12 capital ships. Estimated colony population, 5,000. Requested response time, 6 hours." Pierce closed his eyes. Still hunting humanity, still the monsters that had chased them across the galaxy. The other pods were opening. His crew emerged like ghosts being pulled back from the dead. Captain David Hayes, the weapons officer, came up gasping and clawing at the pod like he was being born. Commander Cole, the helmsman, had to be helped out because his legs would not work. Chief Engineer simply sat up and started coughing, coughing until tears ran down his face. Dr. Lisa came out of her pod crying. She had been a young woman when she went in. Now she was old. They were all old. They had aged 23 years in an instant of their own perception. "Listen to me," Pierce said. His voice was hoarse, but it carried command. "All of you listen, we have 6 hours. The colony is under attack. We are the only ones who can help. Get to the medical bay, get your vitals checked, and then get to your stations. Move now. Question later." The crew moved. They had trained for this years ago. They knew what to do even if their bodies did not remember how to do it. Pierce made his way to the captain's chair in the control center. The bridge of the Valiant was a work of functional beauty. Every screen showed status information. Every control was designed for human hands. The ship was old, but she was human, built by humans for humans. Made his way to the main engineering station. The engines were dormant, but they were still there. Real fusion reactors, not the electrical garbage that newer ships used. Real weapons, real armor. The Valiant was not built for show. She was built for war. "Admiral, main power is at 43%, reported. "I can bring the engines online in 2 hours if I push them, but we will need to burn hot, very hot. The reactor might not handle it, but it will work." "Do it," Pierce said. "We do not have 2 hours to waste. Give me everything. I do not care if the engines catch fire, just get us moving." Hayes was at the weapons station, running through firing systems. The weapons were coming online, green lights replacing red across his readout. He looked up at Pierce, and his eyes were ancient and afraid. "Admiral, the weapons systems are fully operational. All defensive systems are green. But we are one ship. 12 capital vessels would normally require." "I know the math, David. We do not have a fleet, we have ourselves. That will have to be enough." The ship hummed to life. The Valiant systems, dormant for so long, began to remember their purpose. The engines ignited with a deep, primal rumble that Pierce felt in his bones. This was what it meant to be a warrior. This moment, when everything else fell away and there was only the mission. "All hands to battle stations," Pierce commanded. "We are heading to 442B at maximum speed. We will arrive in 8 hours. The colony has 6. We do not make promises we cannot keep, but we will move fast enough to arrive before there is nothing left to save." The USS Valiant rose from the dimensional pocket where she had been sleeping. Her massive frame shuddered as the engines pushed beyond their design limits. Her running lights blazed to life like angry stars. For the first time in 23 years, the ship was moving with purpose. Cole worked the helm, punching in course corrections with fingers that shook from the recovery. The dimensional boundary began to crack. Space folded. The ship broke free into normal space with a sound like thunder. "We have a hyperspace route plotted," Cole said, "jumping in 30 seconds. Pierce stood and faced the. Out there somewhere was a colony of 5,000 humans who believed they were about to die. They had sent a message into the void and hoped for a response. They had found the Valiant. They had found the ghost ship that was supposed to be lost forever. "Jump," Pierce said simply. They did not recognize the ship when it emerged from hyperspace. Their sensors searched for it, trying to match the hull signature against their vast database of known warships. The computer systems of the Dominion found nothing. This ship did not exist in any record. This ship should not exist. Commander Axe stood in the command chamber of his flagship and felt something new. It was a sensation he had not experienced in 300 years of conquest and dominion. It was uncertainty. The human warship was ugly. It did not follow the principles of aerodynamic design that they understood. It was a box, a metal box with weapons sticking out of it. But it was moving, and it was moving fast, and every scanner said it was alive and angry. "Identify that vessel," Axe commanded. His voice was a series of clicks and hisses. He had 6 arms, and they gestured at the tactical display showing the human ship dropping toward them like a falling star. The communications officer, a smaller with blue markings on her exoskeleton, made a series of sounds. "The ship is not responding to identification requests. Our database has no match for the vessel configuration. It appears to be human, but it does not match any known human design." Axe felt something move in his chest cavity. Fear. He recognized it now. He was afraid of this unknown thing hurtling toward his fleet. The first shot came from the human ship when it was still closing the distance. It was not a laser. It was not a particle beam. It was something worse. It was a kinetic projectile accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. It was physics made into a weapon. It was a human answer to problems that required simple and direct solutions. The projectile hit the flagship's forward shields. The shields, which had never failed, flickered. The deflection grid, which had been untested against this type of weapon, began to collapse. The second shot came 2 seconds later, and the third came 2 seconds after that. 3 direct hits. 3 explosions against the shields that were supposed to protect the flagship against anything. Axe gripped the edge of his command station with all 6 hands. Full retreat. All ships are to disengage and... The human ship was already between them and hyperspace. It moved with a precision that Axe did not understand. It did not dance around them. It did not play for position. It simply appeared where it needed to be and fired. And when it fired, something died. The second ship in formation took a direct hit to its reactor housing. The explosion was catastrophic. The ship simply came apart, a sudden rupture of metal and force that scattered wreckage across 1,000 kilometers of space. 4,000 warriors died in an instant. Their commander, their families, their lives, all gone in a moment of physics and fire. Axe's 6 eyes went wide. He had been a commander for so long that he had forgotten what it meant to lose. They did not lose battles. The dominated, the conquered, they were supreme across the galaxy. But this human ship was teaching him a lesson in humility. On the bridge of the USS Valiant, Admiral Pierce stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the battle unfold across the tactical display. His face was calm, but his jaw was clenched so tight that a doctor would have said it would break. Hayes had the weapon systems locked into a firing sequence that was systematic and brutal. He targeted the ships with the same precision a surgeon uses to cut. Each shot was calculated to hit shields at maximum stress points. Each volley was designed to break through defenses and damage the ships underneath. "Target the 3rd and 4th ships in their line," Pierce commanded. "I want their shields overloaded. Hit them with everything we have." "Firing," Hayes said. His fingers moved across the weapon's console. The Valiant's weapons blazed like the sun. The 3rd ship took 6 hits in succession. Its shields, already weakened by previous fire, simply gave up. The 7th hit penetrated the hull. The explosion that followed was secondary, a chain reaction of internal damage that killed 3,000 warriors and left the ship a burning coffin in space. The 4th ship tried to run. Cole pushed the Valiant's engines past their design limits, and the human ship accelerated like something alive and hungry. Cole was a helmsman who understood physics and trajectory. He cut off the ship's escape vector with a precision that would have amazed any spacer in the galaxy. Pierce fired on the 4th ship as it tried to make its jump. The weapons tore into it before it could engage its hyperspace drives. The ship became a dying beast, its weapons offline, its shields gone, its fate sealed. Axe watched his armada being dismantled. 1 human ship, 8 humans. They were destroying his fleet like a predator tears apart prey. The commander who had conquered 17 systems felt the weight of conquest turn into the weight of failure. "All remaining ships, full retreat to hyperspace jump points," Axe commanded. "We will return to the Dominion and report what we have encountered." The remaining 7 ships broke formation and ran. They ran like frightened creatures. The Valiant pursued them, weapons blazing, but the commanders did not care about honor anymore. They only cared about reaching hyperspace before the human ship could catch them. 3 more ships were damaged as they fled, but 3 made it to jump points and vanished into hyperspace. The remaining 2 were cut off, their drives damaged, their shields failing. Pierce had a choice. He could destroy them. They were helpless. They were the enemy. Destroying them would be simple. He did not give the order. "Cease fire," Pierce said quietly. "Let them go." "Admiral," Hayes looked up from his weapons station, confused. "Let them go," Pierce repeated. "I want those commanders to reach the Dominion alive. I want them to tell their empire what they encountered here. I want them to understand that humanity is not what they thought we were. We are not prey. We are not something to be hunted. I want them to go back and be afraid." The 2 crippled ships, their drives damaged but functional, limped toward a hyperspace jump point. Their captains had understood the choice. They had been allowed to live. That was a message more powerful than any weapon. The USS Valiant coasted through the wreckage of the battle. 5 capital ships had been destroyed. 5,000 warriors were dead. The most powerful armada that had come to 442B had been cut down by a single human warship. Below on the colony, Martinez watched on the tactical display as the retreated. She stood in the command center and felt something crack inside her chest. Relief, hope, the impossible had happened, help had come. Pierce ordered the ship to move toward the colony. They would land soon. They would help. They would make sure the humans below were safe. Martinez descended the airlock of the USS Valiant with her shoulders back and her head high. The ship's docking bay was a vast space of metal and engineering. It hummed with power. It smelled of ozone and machine oil. It smelled like salvation. Admiral Jacob Pierce was waiting for her at the base of the ramp. He was older than she expected, his white hair stark against his weathered face, his uniform hanging slightly loose on his frame. But his eyes were sharp. His posture was straight. He was a man who had seen war and understood what it meant. Extended her hand. Admiral Pierce, Captain Martinez, Colonial Commander. Pierce took her hand in a grip that was firm and real. How many did we lose? Did not shy away from the number. 214 confirmed dead. 87 from the agricultural dome destruction, 137 from various bombardments across the settlement, 73 during evacuation chaos. We have another 40 missing, presumed dead, but we have not been able to confirm their status. Pierce did not look away. And how many are alive? 4,786. Then we saved most of them, Pierce said. We cannot bring back the dead, but we can make sure the living survive. Around them, the Valiant's crew was moving with purpose. Dr. Lisa was organizing medical teams to help the colonists. Chief Engineer was already in communication with the colony's engineering staff, assessing damage and determining what could be salvaged. Commander Cole was directing the landing of shuttles that would bring more supplies and personnel to the surface. Felt something strange in her chest. It was not quite relief. It was the beginning of relief, but it was mixed with other emotions: anger, gratitude, loss, shame that she had needed to call for help. My daughter is in the West Bunker, said. Along with 300 other children, we lost the entire medical center before we could get people evacuated. I have no idea if everyone in that building is dead or if some managed to escape. Your daughter is safe now, Pierce said. Doctor's team is moving through the bunkers and the settlement. They will find everyone who can be found. Nodded. She wanted to go to her daughter immediately, but protocol said she needed to coordinate with the ship's command. She needed to brief Pierce on the situation. She needed to be a captain before she could be a mother. They moved to the Valiant's command center. It was smaller than expected, but it was efficient. Every console had a purpose. Every station was manned by a human who looked like they had aged 23 years in a single day. Tell me about the Galactic Council's involvement, Pierce said as they walked through the corridors of the ship. They sent words of sympathy, said flatly. The moment they appeared in the system, I sent distress calls to every human settlement within a week's travel and to the Council itself. The Council sent a message saying they would review the incident. The review would take time. In the meantime, they should be encouraged to withdraw through diplomatic channels. That is what they said while my people were dying. Pierce's expression did not change, but saw his hands become fists. He released them deliberately, forcing himself to stay calm. The Council believes humanity should be compliant, Pierce said. They believe we should accept what we are given and ask for nothing more. 50 years ago, the Terran government made a choice. We would pursue peace through obedience. We would not develop weapons. We would not fight. We would be good. We would be quiet. And the galaxy would respect us. It did not work, said. No, it never works. The predators respect only strength. They came here because they believe humanity is prey. They will continue to come unless we change their understanding. They entered the command center. The tactical display showed the colony from orbit. The damage was extensive. The agricultural domes were burning. The residential sections on the north side of the settlement had been completely destroyed, but people were still moving. People were still alive. People were still fighting. A priority message came through the communication system. It was official. It was from the Terran Colonial Authority. The message was brief and to the point. The USS Valiant is hereby ordered to stand down all military operations. The attack on 442B is to be reported to the Galactic Council as required by treaty. The Valiant is to report for decommissioning immediately. Any further military action will be considered an act of war against a recognized galactic power and a violation of the Colonial Accord. Pierce read the message twice, then he deleted it. "Sir," Commander Cole said from his station. The message was marked as a priority command authorization. "I am aware," Pierce said. "It is also an order to let people die, an order to accept that we will cower before predators, an order to betray everything we stand for." Felt something shift in the room. The crew understood what Pierce was doing. He was making a choice that would change everything. "We are no longer part of the Terran colonial authority," Pierce said clearly. He was speaking to his crew, but he was also speaking to history. "We are no longer bound by agreements that require us to be weak. We are no longer willing to accept that our people should die because politicians prefer the safety of compliance." Pierce turned to face directly. "Captain Martinez, your colony is under the protection of the USS Valiant. We will help you rebuild. We will help you restore what was destroyed. And we will make sure that no ship ever threatens your people again while I have breath in my body." "You are defying the Terran government?" said. It was not a question. "Yes," Pierce said simply. "I am. This ship was built for humanity, not for committees, not for councils, not for politicians who hide behind protocols while their people die. The ship belongs to humanity, to real people, to people like you and your daughter." Felt her eyes burn with tears she had not known were there. "They will come for you, they will hunt you, they will call you a traitor." "Let them," Pierce said. "I spent 23 years in sleep and I woke up to a world where humanity is still being hunted, where my government chooses obedience over protection, where 5,000 people almost died because politicians wanted to keep us weak. I will not accept that world anymore. I will not rebuild it. I will change it." Pierce moved to the navigation console and pulled up the star map of human settlements. There were dozens of them. Most of them were isolated. Most of them were vulnerable. Most of them relied on the Galactic Council for any kind of protection. "How many colonies have you heard requesting protection?" Pierce asked. Thought of the communications she had monitored over the past year. 18, maybe more. They make requests to the Council, but nothing happens. Eventually, they stop making requests. "Not anymore," Pierce said. "The Valiant will answer. Every time a human colony is threatened, we will come, we will respond, and we will fight. The galaxy will learn that humanity has teeth." Doctor appeared in the doorway. "Admiral, the first casualties from the medical center have been located. We have 8 survivors, badly injured but alive. Captain Martinez, your daughter is in good health. She is asking for you." Did not hesitate. She turned to leave, then stopped. "Admiral, thank you, I do not have the words." 6 months after the battle, the USS Valiant received her 700th volunteer crew member. The ship had capacity for 150 people when she woke from sleep. She now carried 312 souls who had come from human settlements across the galaxy. They came because they had heard the story. They came because they wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. The story spread like fire through dry wood. Every human settlement from the outer rim to the core had heard about the ghost ship that rose from the darkness. They had heard about Admiral Jacob Pierce and his skeleton crew who had faced an armada and refused to break. They had heard about Captain Martinez and the colony on 442B that survived when everyone said it would fall. Recruiters for the Valiant set up stations on every human world. They were not looking for soldiers. They were looking for people who believed humanity had a future beyond obedience. The lines of volunteers stretched around city blocks. Young and old came forward. Engineers and doctors, teachers and farmers, scientists and mechanics, all of them wanted to be part of the Valiant. The Terran government issued a response. They called Pierce and his crew traitors. They called the Valiant a rogue vessel operating outside the law. They issued orders for the ship's capture. But they did not send warships. They did not have warships capable of facing the Valiant. The government knew this, and the people knew this, and the silence that followed became more powerful than any official proclamation. 6 months after the first battle, the Valiant defended the colony at Sanctum Beta. A scout force had arrived to test human defenses. The Valiant arrived in 4 hours. The force broke and ran after 40 minutes of combat. The commander of the ships called the engagement a retreat. The humans called it a victory. 2 weeks later, the Valiant arrived at New Seattle. A blockade was preventing any ships from leaving the planet. Pierce sent a message to the blockade commander: "Remove your ships or be destroyed." The blockade was removed in 12 hours. The commander understood the message. The Valiant was not playing the game of diplomacy and negotiation. The Valiant was speaking the only language they understood: overwhelming force and the will to use it. On the colony at 442B, Martinez walked through the rebuilt settlement. The agricultural domes had been reconstructed. The water purification plant was online. The medical center was being rebuilt with better facilities than the original. The school was filled with children again. Among them was daughter Maya, who was now 8 years old and talking about wanting to join the Valiant when she grew up. The people of the colony had transformed the place where 214 of them had died into something new. Not a place of mourning, but a place of defiance. Not a place of surrender, but a place of hope. The destroyed sections of the original settlement were left as they were, as a memorial, a reminder of what happened and why the Valiant mattered. Received a message from Admiral Pierce. It was encrypted and secure. Nobody could read it except her. The message was simple. Captain Martinez, I failed once when I was needed most. I was on a mission to defend the colony at 456 when they attacked 442B. I was returning to base when I received the order to hide to defend our position to protect the investment we had made. I was 3 days away when they hit your colony. I could have saved people. I was ordered not to try. That failure has been with me for 23 years. When I woke up, when I realized I had been given a second chance, I understood that I would never let that happen again. The Valiant will not hide. We will not choose strategy over humanity. We will answer every call. Every time a human is in danger, we will come. We will come like judgment, and we will protect our own. That is the message the Valiant carries now. That is what we stand for. Read the message and understood the cost of what Pierce had done. He had given up his rank. He had given up his career. He had given up any hope of returning to Earth and living a normal life. The Terran government would hunt him. The Galactic Council would see him as a threat. They would see him as an enemy. And he had done it anyway. Other ships began to emerge from the shadows. Not new ships, but old ships. Vessels that had been hidden away, deemed too dangerous to deploy. A battleship named the Defender, held in deep storage on a colony world. A destroyer called the Retaliation, buried under ice in a system nobody remembered. One by one, the military vessels that Earth's government had decided to forget about were brought back to life. The Valiant became the flagship of a new human fleet, not a fleet of the Terran government, a fleet of humanity itself, a fleet that answered to the people, not to politicians, a fleet that existed to protect and defend rather than to hide and comply. The Dominion sent an official complaint to the Galactic Council. They said that humans were in violation of multiple treaties. They said that humans were developing weapons they had promised not to develop. They demanded that the Council take action. The Council asked for evidence. They showed the evidence of the Valiant and the emerging human fleet. The Council sent a message to Earth. The message was formal and bureaucratic, but the meaning was clear. Either Earth would control the humans, or the Council would enforce the original agreements through force. Earth's government, after considering the situation for 3 days, decided they had no control over Admiral Pierce. They washed their hands of the situation and declared the Valiant and all vessels operating with her a rogue faction outside the authority of the Terran government. But they did not send warships to stop them, and they did not order the human colonies to refuse aid to the Valiant. The government had made its choice, official denial paired with unofficial tolerance. As long as the Valiant did not attack Council member worlds, the Council would look the other way. Pierce understood what this meant. He had won. Humanity had won, not a military victory, a political victory. The government would not support him, but it would not oppose him either. The colonies would support him, and that was enough. A year after the battle at 442B, Martinez received an invitation to join the Valiant's command staff. The ship was growing. New ships were being brought online. The fleet was expanding, and Pierce wanted experienced officers who understood both the military and the colonists. Considered the offer for 1 day, then she accepted. She left her position as colonial commander and became a captain on the Valiant. Maya stayed on 442B for now, under the care of trusted friends, until it established her position on the ship. Then the girl would join her mother among the stars. On the bridge of the USS Valiant, Admiral Jacob Pierce stood and looked out at the galaxy that had once tried to destroy humanity and found itself unable to do so. The ship was no longer a ghost from the past. She was a symbol of the present and the future. She was the embodiment of human refusal to accept defeat. She was the answer to every predation. The Valiant was humanity's sword, but she was not a sword of conquest. She was a sword of defense. A sword that existed to protect children and families and dreams of something better among the stars. Set course for New Beijing colony, Pierce ordered. "They have reported increased activity in their sector. We will show them that humanity stands with them." The Valiant jumped to hyperspace. Her running lights blazed like angry stars. And in every human settlement across the galaxy, people watched the ship disappear into the darkness and understood that they were no longer alone. Help was coming. The Valiant was coming. And as long as humans carried steel and will in their hearts, the darkness would never completely close in. "You do not need words," Pierce said. "Go to your daughter. Let her know her mother survived. Let her know that humanity is not finished. We are only just beginning." Left the command center with Doctor. As she walked through the corridors of the Valiant, she understood that something had changed in the galaxy. A ship had risen from the darkness, and with it, humanity had risen too. The USS Valiant, risen from the darkness, had announced to the galaxy that humanity was still alive, and humanity still fought back. The universe twisted. Stars bent into light lines. The USS Valiant jumped to hyperspace, carrying 8 ghosts toward a destiny that would change everything. Behind them, the Blackwood Nebula returned to darkness and silence, empty once more. Above the colony, the Armada continued its work of destruction. And in the dark of the Blackwood Nebula, light years away, something that had been sleeping for 23 years began to wake.